Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some breaking news this Monday morning as Mississippi State officially parting ways with Zach Arnett as the head football coach for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Want to hop on, talk about just a little instant reaction take, but more importantly, what are some top candidates that Mississippi State should be pursuing as their next head football coach? Really excited to get into it. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. The amount of support you guys have shown the boys, it really does mean a lot. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, would love to hear from you guys who you want the next head coach for the Mississippi State Bulldogs to be. I spent my morning looking at the message boards, looking at Twitter, trying to get an overall vibe and feel for what Mississippi State fans want as their next head coach. Got a couple names that I want to talk about. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. At the end of the day, we're going to be talking a lot about this Mississippi State program in the next couple of weeks, not only in terms of who is their head coach that they're going to go after, but more importantly, you're going to see another kind of overhaul of this Mississippi State roster once this new head coach gets into the building. You know there's going to be a lot of good names in the transfer portal to pursue, and Mississippi State's going to be one of those programs that's going to be active in the transfer portal. Really excited to get into this one. I want to start with the most obvious head coach candidate that I think a lot of Mississippi State fans want, and that's Dan Mullen. And I think it's perfect. If you were to ask me right now what head coach makes the most sense, it's hard to think of any head coach other than Dan Mullen. One, proven track record at Mississippi State, had just phenomenal success in Starkville. And two, I think the narrative around Dan Mullen is wrong. He went to Florida, had a lot of success in a lot of different years. Did it work out? And at the end of the day, no. But you ask me who's one of the best head coach candidates that's not already tied to a job right now? It's Dan Mullen. He's out calling games at ESPN. I think he clearly wants back in the head coaching game. And I don't know if it makes any more sense than to wind up back at Starkville, at Mississippi State, where he had a ton of success. He's proven that he can win in Starkville. He knows how to recruit the SEC. You ask me what candidate makes the most sense right now. I think a lot of Mississippi State fans agree with this. It's Dan Mullen. Now, if Dan Mullen does not want back in the game, talking about a few other head coach candidates that would make sense, I think you got to go to one of the hottest head coach candidates in the game right now, and that's Mike Elko at Duke. Right, has experience in the SEC at Texas A&M, has done a phenomenal job not only recruiting at Duke, but in the player development standpoint. And when you're Mississippi State and you're looking at what kind of qualities you want in a head coach, is Mississippi State ever going to recruit to the likes of Georgia and Alabama? Probably not. So you need a head coach that not only Mike Elko can recruit. I mean, he recruited at a high level at Texas A&M when he was the defensive coordinator, but more importantly, I don't think there's any head coach better in the game at player developing and running a program than Mike Elko. I mean, he's working with a Duke roster right now that was 2 years ago dead in the water. He takes over. They win 9 games his year one. This year, they're having a phenomenal season, even though they're rotating quarterbacks. You talk about a head coach that's elite at getting the best out of the talent on the roster. I mean, Mike Elko is at the top of the list, and obviously, he's a candidate for Texas A&M. He's a candidate for Michigan State. I think he certainly should be a candidate for Mississippi State as well. Another couple of coaches that I think are really interesting, and I'm going to go to a Mike Leach protege here, and a head coach that I don't think a lot of people are connecting to Mississippi State, and that's Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury was the quarterback at Texas Tech under Mike Leach, and if you want to bring back that kind of offense, I mean, Cliff Kingsbury had a lot of success at Texas Tech. He had some success in the NFL with the Arizona Cardinals. He's at USC right now as a senior analyst. I think he clearly wants back in the game. And you talk about bringing in an offense that can win at the SEC level, kind of similar to what you saw with Mike Leach. Kind of, I don't know if he's obviously not Mike Leach. Mike Leach had a extremely unique and charismatic personality, but Cliff Kingsbury has a lot of those concepts on the offensive side of the ball that Mike Leach had. I think that one would make a lot of sense, and he's young. And so he's going to be able to recruit at a high level. He's going to be able to bring back an offense that's going to be scoring a lot of points at the SEC. Cliff Kingsbury not getting a ton of buzz as a head coach candidate, I think would make a lot of sense at Mississippi State, kind of staying in a similar vein here with a younger head coach candidate, Sean Lewis. I mean, one at Kent State, which is an extremely hard program to win at the MAC. He takes the offensive coordinator job in Colorado, gets demoted. Coach Prime demotes him from the offensive play calling duties. Sean Lewis was a head coaching candidate for a lot of Power 5 teams last year, right? Louisville, he was at the top of their board. He ends up leaving Kent State, leaving a head coaching job to take over the Colorado offense, and did a phenomenal job. I mean, this was a Colorado offense that not a ton of talent on the team and had them as a top 30 offense across the entire country. You talk about a coach that's young, that will be able to recruit and implement an offense that's going to score a lot of points in the SEC. I think Sean Lewis and Cliff Kingsbury, kind of some younger head coach candidates that on the offensive side of the ball will be able to get Mississippi State back to where they belong. The last candidate I want to talk about, and there's so many candidates, and we'll talk about different names that emerge in the news cycle. Bobby Petrino, right? And again, a proven head coach that has won at the SEC level, I think is one of the best play callers, pure play callers and quarterback developers that we've seen in college football the last 2 decades. And he's at Texas A&M right now, took the offensive coordinator job. I think he did a really good job revamping that Texas A&M offense. He's won in the SEC. Now, a little bit older of a head coach. You're not necessarily sure how long he's going to be there, but he has a proven track record of not only having an elite offense and elite quarterback play, but also winning as a head coach in the SEC. Bobby Petrino probably going to be looking for a job after they got rid of Jimbo Fisher. They didn't give him the interim head coach job. I think Bobby Petrino would make a lot of sense for Mississippi State to pursue as well. At the end of the day, I think Mississippi State has a couple of options to go to. There's some proven head coaches that have won at the SEC level, like Dan Mullen, like Bobby Petrino. There are a bunch of kind of really quality head coaches that are rising up. Chris Kleiman at Kansas State, Mike Elko at Duke, that could be candidates as well. And then you could also go the younger route and go get a kind of an offensive mastermind, if you will, to come and take over this Mississippi State program. I think, again, Cliff Kingsbury with the Mike Leach background would make a lot of sense. You could also go the coordinator route and go get one of the top coordinators in the game right now that's a very, very good recruiter and try to build this talent up at Mississippi State. Couple different options and couple different scenarios that Mississippi State could go to. Really interested to see what names emerge. Mine, obviously, is still Dan Mullen. I think that makes the most amount of sense. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. Again, there are a lot of candidates, a lot of different ways Mississippi State could go about this. Wanted to give you guys a few of my names that made the most sense. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Really looking forward to covering where they go in Starkville. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.